Good morning, everyone. John471 here to discuss the S&P 500. Today is Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Allow me to read our disclaimer. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Beginning today with our news, as we always do, today is an easy one. At 8:30 EST, we have the non-farm employment report, which is historically a huge number. For me, as someone with an interest rate background, it was always the biggest number, and I'm expecting it to be a big one today. I think there will likely be significant movement from this number. Hopefully it's tradable. Let's get into the charts and discuss what we may see today. Okay, here we're on our full session daily bar chart of the S&P 500. The pink profiles are monthly, and you can see March, April, and the beginning of May. The key narrative that we have been following here is that we put in this 4-9 day. The high became resistance. We were looking for, if we were able to push through, we were looking for a test of the March VPOC area, that is the 5670s. And as you can see, we got that test officially yesterday. So for me now, the next waypoint up on this time frame, looking at this scale, is going to be the April high. We've been one time framing lower on the monthly time frame. That's making lower highs and lower lows for a few months here. And so we are now within striking distance. We're within a day's range. We're within an NFP report of taking this high. We're also within a day's range or an NFP report of having it all fall apart for the buyers by failing to get to that high and dropping back into our prior range, which would disappoint a lot of people that think that this is the bottom. Not to say it is or isn't. I think that's probably going to be more dependent on the news flow that we see in coming weeks and months. But, or, the nervousness of participants can also determine whether it's the bottom. But that's the key narrative that we've been following, and that is carrying it forward today. It's that we have, over the course of this month, we saw us take that 4-9 high, and we have, in a very grinding fashion, continued up to get the 5670 target. And with continuation higher, the next target would be the prior month's high for me. And if we should start to fall lower, well, we have this low as our initial area of interest. Really quickly here, let's just put up a composite profile just to be aware of what's going on in this area. The composite is the profile drawn from a point that kind of captures a larger part of the narrative. And here you can see this is just, look how choppy this is. And then right here at this March VPOC, so much attention. This is the most traded price for the last 3 months. So a lot of attention at this area, and no surprise that we're kind of hanging out here waiting for important news. Let's go on to another chart and continue our discussion. Okay, here we are on an intraday chart of the S&Ps, PNF 2 points by 4, just showing the structure of the price movement and the daily profiles. And let's just go over on this chart where we can see a few of the areas that are important that we've discussed. First of all, above here is that key target I mentioned, the prior month's high at 57.39. This is really not very far away at all, and this is a very key target if the pressure from this balanced region here releases higher. Above that, we have this unauctioned area of singles, which is the next key auction target for me up, and it's right around 1 Vala. And then above that, we have a composite VPOC of 58.21. This is the most traded price going back over a year. So this is a huge magnet that if we are able to get above the prior month's high and gain traction into these unauctioned areas, this would be a key area to test with significant excursion higher. Below, we obviously have the gap zone that kind of ironically, this gap zone, the filling of this gap zone is something I've been talking about for a while. And in true S&P 500 fashion, we managed to get the targets above without technically filling it, which is fun because we didn't trade through it in RTH. We just skipped over it. So that's telling me very clearly that these are prices that the market doesn't really like so much right now. We've gotten strong reactions away from them. And you see here on after the bell, we did dip after the market closed. And the look of this this sell-off right at settlement yesterday, we went neutral on settlement, meaning we had been pretty bullish all day and then broke the IB low on like right into settlement. And to me, if there were that many people that were really nervous about NFP, at least nervous at these prices, that was a solid potential to see a nervous sell-off into the overnight session, and we didn't see that. We saw it get bought back up. So for me, that kind of just sort of underscores the bullishness in this area. That's not to say that I think we'll rally today, but it just shows me that as of right now, the buying isn't done. The counter argument, though, however, is we are seeing clear resistance at the 70s, and our overnight VPOC, point of control, from this session, the 66.75s, right in that area, to me does appear that there is larger participants loading offers in that area that have some overhead. Doesn't mean it won't get bought, but what it just tells us right now is we're seeing some energy compressing in this area. Not surprising. Likely to be unleashed one way or another, or both ways during NFP, depending on how that data comes out. So from this, what scenarios can we put together? What tests are important? What paths might the market travel? Well, let's discuss it. We'll begin with our bullish ideas, but we're going to preface that with just the key thing that I said, that I'm seeing some energy built up in this area, potentially. And so our expectation, the most tradable scenario for us, would be a nice clean break out of this area that continues to one of our target areas. The environment that we want to avoid, or at least I want to avoid trading in on a day like today, would be a very volatile, ambiguous day that just chops around these targets. This could present outside in opportunities around this key area, this key concentrated area seen on our volume profile. There could be outside in opportunities. There probably will be. However, the key is going to be to recognize that first. Don't try to play price extension, price exploration if you're unsure of whether we're going to make it to the targets that you're hoping for. Okay, going on, bullish ideas, let's discuss it. Well, the most bullish idea, obviously, would be if the little tell we got yesterday at settlement bears it out. What do I mean by that? I mean, if this low just kind of holds and we get on the number some type of an explosion or excursion higher. So the key for that, for me, would be if we push above this area, and ideally, hopefully, we get something tradable that we could play. But if we push out of this area and manage to hold, then the first clear target would be the tariff news SOC. If we get through the tariff news SOC and don't fall back into range, I got to be honest, I think the prior month's high is a pretty likely area to be tested, and it could happen quickly. If we get that test, it will be crucial to see how we react there, because getting this test, there is potential for sellers to come in hard at the prior month's high. And if they do, or if we get any kind of retracement, any retests of this area or century will be important to gauge the remaining bullishness to potentially continue up for our next target, which would be the 3-6 gap zone. If we get the 3-6 gap zone and we don't immediately get sold, the 3-6 singles and don't immediately get sold, then extension into this 58.21 region would be key. If the 58.21s are tested today, and it's only one vol up, it's not a big lift for the market to get there. But if that area is tested and not immediately rejected, I would just go zone to zone and expect a grind higher if we're able to push here. I would expect it to be grindy because I think that there would be quite a bit of longs that would love to be able to sell these prices today, which would be overhead on a test here and could present some reversion opportunity. But that's the key area on the way up for me. What happens if we break lower? That's where things really get interesting here. That's where things really get interesting, because for me, if we lose this area, this is where this area here, right around our gap zone, this is where the buyers kind of drew a new line. So if we lose this area without taking the high, or with a weak test to the high that just gets stuffed at or ahead of the tariff news and the century figure, push up and get stuffed, that will be a bit of a tell to me that there are way more people up here that need to sell. And if they can't sell these prices, they'll have to sell lower prices. So if we lose this price, I'll be honest, I'm expecting a bit of a flush lower through the gap zone into or around the prior week's settle, which will be our first decision zone and our auction waypoint with this HVN. If we get this flush on the number after it, this will be a key situation, a key area, because this is the first area to me where I would be open to some type of reversion if sellers, or if buyers, I'm sorry, dig their heels in and present an opportunity to push back higher. This would be the first area I'd be interested in seeing that happen. I wouldn't be super aggressive about it, but this would be the first waypoint breaking below the gap zone. Now, if we lose this, which is a real possibility in a bearish situation, lose this area, then the next area down would be the century figure. And if the century figure does not provide support and or we can't get back above the prior week's high, then we are looking for this low. And really, I think if this low even becomes a possibility, I would expect us to be able to push through it and take at least these first set of singles. Because and the reason I'm saying this is I think through all of this, there were plenty of longs that were looking that are looking to make a nice sale. And if that doesn't materialize for them, we could see a lot of that unwind. This would be more likely with a surprise number, a bad number, or some type of news that is negative. But just going over that again, the prior week's high would be the first interesting area on a drop. I wouldn't be too aggressive because the potential for longs running for the door here could be great, and we could just push right through it. If we get to century, that would be an area of interest as well. But if we get there and we can't get out of the prior week's high, or start to pressure this 54.55 low, then I am not going to touch the longs until I see an impulse higher or whatnot. And I would be very open to our key target on the downside, which is these 424 singles. Should we lose these 424 singles, then very clearly our next targets down would be the next singles and this gap zone, which is crucial. I would expect support on the first touch of this. That's my expectation, unless news would be, unless there's some news counter to that. If my expectation is wrong and we somehow hit this price and we don't see support, that would change the environment for me. It would be a big surprise. I think it would be a surprise for a lot of participants as well. But anyway, now further here, I will also add, if we do get some type of a drop through this and it does start to find traction at an interesting place, like around the prior week settle, the rip higher could be pretty intense from this. It would need to give me a clear setup with a very clear impulse that I could trade against. It might not even happen. If we test this area and it is still controlled by the buyers and we do get the rip higher, the trade might not even happen down here. It might happen so fast that we get back above the gap zone and the trade ends up being at the gap zone, which would be fine with me, because that's really the area that I'm looking to be controlled by buyers. So if we would get a very quick dip below to around this area, attempt, and then rip higher back above the gap zone, I would be fine playing the continuation long as we're showing that we're able to take prior highs and really get above this area right here, the 5650s, which is basically the fulcrum in this lever. So anyway, that's what I got for you. 15 minutes, so we'll cut it off right here. Quickly, just adding the nothing scenario, which the nothing scenario would just be any trade that megaphones from this area rather than making a clean move away. and that could get very choppy. It could tighten up and then give us the move at the end of the day, in one way or another. But I'll probably leave early today because it's Friday and NFP, so I won't be here for the close, or at least the final hour. I'm just kidding, I'll be here. But anyway, that's what I got for you. I hope this is helpful. I hope that you find some utility from this. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, and I hope your wonderful morning continues. And most of all, I hope you find some way today to improve your trading that is not dependent upon your P&L, but instead is dependent upon your process. That's what I got for you. Let's get out there and clock those ticks. Ciao.